think it's safe to say we've all done this, haven't we? You know what I mean? You're out walking, you look at someone and you think, oh, I know you. And then you sort of both look at each other and then you can't quite remember where you know them from. Is it an ex-work colleague? Is it, a family member even that you haven't seen for years? That sort of thing. And you're both perplexed and you're puzzled at each other. And that's truly, I wanted to share this with you because that's truly how I first met the international film star, Dirk Bogarde. Let me explain. Nice to see you. Thank you so much for your company today. This really inspired a memory because, as you know, a couple of days ago we made a behind the scenes of the Mayfair Mansion that was part of the Rank Film organisation. And of course, one of the biggest stars of Rank Films was none other than this man, Dirk Bogarde. Oh yes, he was a matinee idol, as they called them then. Remember that, girls? Matinee idol, yes. You don't use that phrase anymore, do you? But Dirk Bogarde was one of the biggest stars literally on the planet for over 12 years. And as he told me, the bottom line was he sort of shot to fame, if you remember, I think in a very big way, all thanks to the cracking film that was The Blue Lamp, in which he played the bad boy. And it's brilliantly filmed. You can never tire of watching it. Co-starring only for 30 minutes, Jack Warner, which then inspired, of course, the TV series Dixon of Dock Green. I don't know if you know that. But The Blue Lamp was the catalyst to making Dirk Bogarde a star. Of course, other movies followed, including many comedy doctor films, of which he pointed out to me, Betty E. Box, the producer, didn't keep wanting to make them. But of course, the people at the top of Rank realised they were a moneymaker alongside Sir Norman Wisdom, so they just kept regurgitating it. A few years down the line, of course, somebody else at Pinewood Studios, Rank Films, did the same thing. The Carry On films. You see how a cycle just develops. But back to Dirk. Well, the bottom line really was this, that I was a resting thespian, as they say. I'd been doing a little bit of TV and all that sort of stuff at that point. And I came out of Harrods in Knightsbridge. Now, truthfully, I'd been there because I'd been working in Harrods, literally helping start up a couple of their marketing things and stuff like that. And it wasn't really for me, I wasn't really interested in the retail world, as you can imagine. I didn't mind working on the record area, the record department, but they didn't want to put me there. Oh no, apparently I was too chatty to the customers. You can imagine, wanting to sell things. It's an apathy, isn't it? No, you can't do that. But what was interesting was I'd finished this particular meeting, came out of Harrods, and I was literally just pondering which way to go. Hadn't been in London that long, so I was still finding my feet, didn't know where to go. Looked directly across at this man who had a trilby hat on, a beautiful coat and a cane. And I sort of smiled at him and I thought, do I know you? Turned out to be the brilliant Dirk Bogarde. Now, Dirk, you see, was a very shy man behind the scenes. Lovely, well-mannered, cultured man as well. But he was actually going to Harrods because he was launching one of his many novels stroke books. And we chatted a little bit about that, and I said, oh, I'm a big fan of your work. And he said, really? You're so young, you know who I am? And there was a bit of a sadness about it in many respects, because when you think he had been one of the biggest stars on the planet, I mean, terrifically huge, hard to imagine it now. He was just wandering off on his own, no security or anything like that, going off to do a signing in Harrods. And I said, oh, good luck with it and all that sort of stuff. And we did have a bit more of a chat. And when I said, well, do you still act and all this sort of stuff? He said, they don't make the movies that I want to appear in anymore. And he was very honest about how it all collapsed with Rank. He said that, really the 7-year contracts had ended, the sort of movies he wanted to do, they didn't want to make. And there was a whole new breach of people coming up, the kitchen sink drama people, Albert Finney's, that type of stuff. And he didn't fit into that genre. He said he could have done, and he did things like The Servant, The Singer Not the Song, stuff like that. But they didn't want that. They wanted Dirk Bogarde matinee idol. So rather reluctantly, he decided to take a further and further step back. He wasn't alone, as he told me, because of course people like Jack Hawkins and Kenneth More, they all had to do the same, reduce their idea of what was available to them. And as he pointed out, it's a 10-year cycle, and you're lucky enough to get that in the world of movies. Obviously, his books became a big success, and later on I did meet him again, and we did do an interview. But I just wanted to share that memory because, as I say, the sad part about it was, as he walked off and went into Harrods, nobody noticed him. And I thought a few decades earlier, he would have been mobbed. He was Dirk Bogarde, he was up there with Dinah Dawes, that sort of stuff. And time really waits for no one. And while he was still, brilliantly elegant and still a good-looking man, clearly that generation had no idea who he was. And it's an interesting thought to think, isn't it, that whoever we are, in the fullness of time, as I've said before, as our late monarch famously said, everything moves on. A pause for thought there. A little bit serious today, eh? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.